stood in basic training with others just like me. I stood and stood and stood from 9 till almost 3. I stood there in my civvies to get my boots and greens. I stood there when they took away my brand new Wrangler jeans. I stood in line to get my shots, got poked in both my arms. I stood there in my underwear during 4 o'clock alarms. I stood roasting in formation under a hot Texas sun, cooked just like a piece of meat, stood till I was done. I stood on top of aircraft wings like in a frying pan. In a war in Vietnam, I stood in burning sand. I stood in front of aircraft, I stood on missile sites, I stood in the heat of day, I stood on wintry nights. I stood with a wrench in hand to fix a broken bird. I stood with an M16 and never said a word. I stood for generals, stood for colonels, even butter bars. I stood for heroes' last goodbyes in passing funeral cars. I stood for retreat at the end of the working day, at bases I was stationed at, MacDill to Cam Bay. I stood on concrete taxiways, saluted as they passed by, pilots in their aircraft, ready to touch the sky. I stood in tents and foxholes, aircraft parking ramps. I stood on top of hills in Air Force training camps. I stood when I got medals for doing this and that. I stood for visiting congressmen, Republican and Democrat. I stood for the national anthem wherever it did play. Faced the flag, rendered salute. I do it to this day. I'm proud for what she stands for and all that she's been through. I get up, I don't kneel, I stand for the red, white, and blue.